Hi, my name is Rowan, and I have a problem, and a big one at that. And now y'all might be asking, what is your problem? Well, this damn thing. And before I elaborate more on that, let me just get it out in the sun real quick. Now that this thing is in the sunlight where we can properly examine it, I can discuss the problem. And the problem is that I keep spending money on this thing, despite me having to finish the Opel Pronto and also having the Corolla. And this thing technically being finished, I'm not even supposed to be working on it. For instance, I wasn't happy with the way that I had the speakers behind the seat set up. So I went and bought some speaker boxes. The other one's already installed because I got excited. And then I had a think and decided that I really wasn't happy with the way I had my center console set up. I mean, it looks pretty, but it's just not practical. So I got the center console from a base model 79 Land Cruiser. And then I had another think and decided that I really want something with a lid that closes. So I got the center console from a top of the line 79 Land Cruiser. So I mocked it up in the vehicle and it looked great, and then I realized, wait, how am I going to incorporate that into my gear lever surround? Because I mean, that looks really good. I don't want to get rid of it. So I made some phone calls and got another 1981 Toyota Corolla center console. And then after all of that, well, I didn't even spend time thinking, I just came across a deal. So I went and picked up a set of brand new Sibi Oscar 7s. Those are brand new, never been used before. They don't even have bulbs in them. Demo models from 2007. They've just been sitting on a shelf for 15 years. And they're gonna go right there. But now I need brackets for them, so tonight I need to order brackets. And in order to install this, I need to remove the carpet out of this thing. And since I'm going to remove the carpet, I might as well do the final sound deadening and heat insulation. So I need to go and order some of that. You see where I'm getting at? Because I dropped it off at FutureTech Fittings to finally have a proper intake built for it. And it came out good, real good. But without any further ado, let me show you guys what they did under the bonnet. Those of you that have been following me for a while, especially y'all that have been following on TikTok, which by the way, if you're not following me on my other platforms, what are you doing? Those of you that have been following me for a while know why exactly I am so stoked about this new intake system. Because this is the 5th iteration of this thing's intake system. And by far, it is the best. First iteration was just a silicon elbow with one of those Midas special cone filters coming straight off the throttle body. Didn't like it, I changed it. So I got one of those fake BMC CDA inline air intakes, sort of like an inline air box. That didn't work. And that's when I actually started to throw some money at the intake system. Because the third iteration was a whole lot of this concertina pipe, along with this E28 BMW 533 airbox. And then the airbox was just sort of connected to the snorkel, and that was it. But it was immensely restrictive. I lost about 30 kilowatts just from this. It was so restrictive that we couldn't tune it. We had to disconnect the entire system just to be able to tune the thing. And then the fourth iteration was this thing, but modified. I had a bigger hole welded on there, so this is a bigger pipe, a bigger diameter pipe than what would have came on it from factory, and I made that hole right there. I also ported and flowed the snorkel. Yeah, I ported and flowed the snorkel, and then that was that. I drove it like that for quite a while. And then I took it to the dyno again, just to find out that I was still losing 14 kilowatts at the wheels from that system. And then I just decided, screw it, I just want the thing to run healthy. So I got this big red cone filter with a silicon elbow running straight off of the throttle body. And then I took what I had left of this concertina pipe, and then I connected it to the snorkel, and it just sort of shoveled cold air into the general direction of the air filter, which used to be located there. Basically, I was just copying the universal K&N cold air intake system. And after all of that, that means that this is not the 5th iteration, but the 6th. And then on to the 6th iteration, where I sent it off to FTF so they can work their magic on it. So they turned around the intake plenum, because if they didn't do that, they were going to have to relocate the battery. They replumbed a bunch of vacuum lines. They blocked off a few things that were just unnecessary. I'll show you guys what they removed from it in a second. They replumbed our PCV system. They replumbed the fuel rails. And while they were busy, just because they're cool like that, they went and vapor honed my fuel rails. Some of you might remember these were basically just covered in flaky black paint that was just waiting to just flake off. And now they look brand new. But yeah, they had a new throttle cable made, and that is that part of the job done. Then they went and made this beautiful pipe right here that they've constructed out of pie cuts, leading into this box right here that they all made in-house, leading to this gorgeous Pro-Ram filter. And then they also have a little pipe right here shoveling air from the snorkel into the box, directing cold air into the filter. And then for good measures, they also had everything powder coated inside and out in this wrinkle black finish. Oh yeah, and they also had to relocate my power steering pump to right there to make room for the box. They also roasted my wiring skills. So I'll address that in the next video you see of this thing. Anyways, yeah, they really did do a stellar job here. And before you guys drop it in the comments, let me just address why I didn't get a closed airbox just yet. The answer is simple. I ran out of money. I mean, the base of this box is the most difficult and expensive part anyway, so to close it up now is going to be super simple, super easy. But once you completely close this box, make it a completely sealed system, the snorkel is then going to be your main air intake, which in this case is going to be no bueno, because my snorkel narrows down to about anywhere between 45 and 55 millimeters in here, which is way too small. I mean, that is a 72 millimeter intake. So in order to properly do it, so I don't choke out the engine and make all of this redundant, before you close that box, I'm first going to have a fully custom snorkel that is the correct diameter built. And yeah. In the meantime, until I can do that, this will still work perfect. I mean, like I said, this is the most difficult part done. I can always have it closed up by FTF a bit later, but as long as I stay out of too deeper water, this will still do a very good job at preventing any water from splashing up into the air intake. And it also sounds very good. I mean, it's probably mostly due to the resonating qualities of the stainless steel they used to construct this new pipe. I mean, it's obviously going to resonate a whole lot better than silicon, and then also the resonating properties of the actual box. I mean, it will echo and stuff. It's due in part to this Pro-Ram filter, because unlike any of the filters I've had before, this basically has zero restriction. I mean, they tested it on the dyno to make sure that everything is happy and dandy and good. With that filter on, I mean, this thing was tuned on an open throttle body, so you got to take that into account. With that filter on, you lost 0.6 of a kilowatt and 1 Newton meter of torque at the wheels consistently. So that already tells you that that thing is basically completely non-restrictive, which is great, because even this much bigger cone filter still stole 5 kilowatts. And due to the new lack of restriction, and there's no better way of explaining this, it just barks differently now. It's more violent, it just sounds much happier. So yeah, with all of that in mind, quick thing for the MP9 Golf Oaks that are always trying to make their cars as loud as humanly possible. If you want the loudest cone filter on the market, get a Pro-Ram. Okay, so I'll warm her up, take her for a drive, do a few revs a bit later so you guys can hear how good the intake sounds now. But before I do that, I really want to get the other speaker box installed because it's been bugging me. Oh, and I forgot, I also got some reservoir socks. I'm digging those. But yeah, this is how the one speaker that I currently have installed is going to sit. Well, is currently sitting, and how the other one on that side is going to sit. Okay, with the seat moved forward, you guys can now get sort of a better idea of how I want that to look. And I believe the guy at the sound shop told me these are made for the Quantum minibus taxis to go up on the roof there by the pillars or whatnot, but they're made for Quantum minibus and they fit perfectly behind the seats of these single cab SFA. So if any of y'all single cab SFA oaks are seeing this, get yourself some of these because they were cheap as well. So let me rip out this goofy system that I've currently got going on in here. Okay, so I completely misjudged how short that hyperlapse was going to be, but quickly put it down in the comments. Which do you guys think looks better? That or that? There's only one correct answer, obviously. Because compared to what I had before, just look at how much neater and tidier that looks. Obviously, I still need to connect it, but that will be quick, simple, and easy. Let me just do, yes. So that will sit well there. So without any further ado, let me get all of this out of the way so I can transfer that speaker to the new speaker box. Quick tip when working with especially these prefab boxes, sometimes the holes are a bit big, so it's a bit tricky to line the speakers up. Before you start drilling holes to insert your screws, just sort of poke at the holes once you've got your speaker lined up. Make sure all of these holes are lined up with a solid piece of material, because really you don't want to get halfway through the install and then realize, oops, I need to redo everything because I'm drilling into air. So yeah, just double check that before you start drilling your holes. It'll save you a bunch of time and it'll save you maybe having to buy a new enclosure. Just look at it. Look at it. It looks so much better. Now I just need to wire those two speakers back up, and I think because the original enclosures had a bunch of this stuffed into them, so I think I'm just going to take some of this and just try and stuff it into those boxes, because apparently, according to forums and Facebook and the internet, it really does help in a smaller enclosure to have it stuffed like that. So I'm just going to do that. But yeah, now that the speakers are in, I guess I've got to fulfill my word and take you guys for a ride so you can hopefully hear what this thing sounds like, because the new system is so loud that it immediately peaks out both of my microphones. So I believe, in my experience, the sound on a GoPro is pretty good. So I've got the GoPro propped up there right above the intake. So I'll try and record the sound like that. Video doesn't really do it justice, you gotta hear it in person. But first I gotta do one more thing. Okay, I messed up and got a couple of bubbles in it, but luckily I make those. So if that sticker dies, I can just put on another one. And now we can get on the road. Now, with the old intake system, there was a bit of a hesitation whenever I really got on it. Whenever I went full throttle at idle, like just revving it, it had sort of like a 0.5, 0.4 seconds when it just was, hey, what now? And then it went and did its thing. That's gone now. I mean, well, it's supposed to be gone because this thing was tuned with an open throttle body, and this program is so free-flowing that there's basically no restriction to cause that hesitation anymore. And due to how the ECU in this thing works, I believe that it's also going to immensely improve my fuel economy, because it was tuned with the open throttle body. So the moment you put a restriction in the way of it, it's going to become more thirsty, for lack of a better word, because it works with a map sensor, not a mass airflow meter, nothing like that. So the moment you restrict it to a point where it's not used to, it reads more vacuum than it thinks it's supposed to have, then it thinks it's working a lot harder than it's supposed to be working, then it just hoys more petrol, and then, well, you run much richer and your fuel economy suffers as a result. It sounds so good. Just to touch on what I said earlier about it being more responsive. I'm currently at 3,500 RPM, round about half throttle, 30% throttle. I get on it. It's so much more fun now. Like, I didn't expect it to be the case, but the difference in sound, I didn't even expect there to be a difference in sound. The difference in sound and responsiveness that this intake has made the holistic driving experience of this thing better tenfold. It is so much more enjoyable. I feel much better about driving it now. Not that I really ever felt bad except for the petrol, but like I said, like I discussed in my previous theory, hopefully the petrol is a little bit better now as well. But what I gotta do now is I have to change the spark plugs, go back to FTF and have them adjust the map for me, because obviously now it's got a proper intake system on it, and actually it's incorrect for it to be tuned for the open throttle body because it is a closed loop system. It can't do any wideband tuning, so I need to take it back to them. And also we need to revise the map to be better suited towards 4x4 driving. That's low RPM, super high load. Because if you tune something just for maximum performance, you throw a bunch of timing and a bunch of fuel at it, and you take it 4x4ing, you are very likely, at least in my experience, because that's what I experienced with this thing, to experience pinging at low RPM, high load when you're in low range. Obviously, you do a lot of that in a 4x4 trail for many hours on one, and pinging is not good for an engine, especially not for extended periods of time as you would be experiencing it in a situation such as that. So I need to take it back to FTF so that we can revise the map, and then this thing will lose a bit of power. It will lose a few kilowatts, almost definitely, but it will be happier and hopefully a bit more fuel efficient. And then after that, I can start saving up to get a more advanced ECU in this thing, because right now it runs, it starts, it drives, it's reliable, but the technology in this thing's ECU is a bit outdated, for lack of a better word. There are better things on the market, and the better things aren't that much more expensive. I really do regret not using a different ECU. I'm not going to tell you guys right now which one I'm using. Some of you already know, but I don't want to shit talk. It's just technology wise, I can do better, and I want to do better. I want at least semi-sequential fuel injection. I want a proper ignition system. I want finer tuning, and the other ECU that I want to get now has a few more goodies you get to play with as well, so that's good. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Please let me know what you guys want to see more of, what you guys want to see less of, and I will check you guys in the next video. Cheers.